The fortress you're about to explore is located by the town of Belogradchik in present-day Bulgaria. Around you are the Belogradchik rocks, a natural rock formation shaped by erosion in prehistoric times, spanning over 50 square kilometers. What you see now only scratches the surface of its rich history. It's home to some of the oldest signs of human life in Europe, and the scene of many historical events that have left their mark throughout the millennia. In contemporary history, the Belogradchik fortress was considered a major strategic objective due to its massive high ground advantage, its fortified walls, and the ease with which it could be defended. Many tried to take the fortress in the late 19th century. During the Russian-Turkish War, it was Russia who moved to ensure Bulgaria's liberation from the Ottoman Empire. The Belogradchik fortress was sieged for the entire duration of the 2-year war by Romanian, Russian, and Serbian troops, but never fell in enemy hands. Shortly after its liberation in 1878, Bulgaria found itself on the brink of another war. Serbia, for one, feared the rise of a new unified power on the Balkans. The Serbian army was numerically superior. Meanwhile, roughly 1/5 of Bulgarian soldiers were young, inexperienced militiamen. High military command in the country was virtually non-existent. For that reason, historians dub this the War of Generals versus Captains. The Bulgarians performed a Spartan-like feat of bravery. Not only did they stand their ground, but they also went on the offense, striking the Serbian flanks and retreating to the woods. This tactic was so effective that the Serbs were slowly pushed back, while Bulgarian forces elsewhere even entered enemy territory towards the end of the war. The Belogradchik fortress housed troops regularly throughout the years. For 5 centuries following the fall of Bulgaria in 1396, it was in the hands of the Ottomans. One of the more notable inhabitants of the fortress was the infamous Ottoman separatist Osman Pasventoglu. He slaughtered all government officials and replaced them with his men. Rumors were he negotiated with Genghis Mehmed Garai, Khan of Crimea, and distant descendant of Genghis Khan. The plot, which ultimately failed, detailed that Garai would reign sultan as befit of his blood. Pasventoglu would support him as Grand Vizier. For a while, the hold was badly neglected. The steady decline of the empire let it descend into ruin until the beginning of the 19th century. Eventually, the Ottomans commissioned French and Italian engineers to upgrade it. They developed the single fortification into a 3-terrace fort, complete with artillery platforms and sturdy walls. The engineers used large white stone blocks and lime mortar to erect walls 12 meters high and 2.5 meters thick at the base. In their upper part, the walls were outfitted with embrasures and were guarded by 3 bastions housing up to 16 cannons. Food and ammunition storage was strategically placed nearby, meaning Belogradchik could easily stand a long, exhaustive siege. This fortress has seen its share of crusades. The first one followed the Bulgarian kingdom's fall under Ottoman rule at the end of the 14th century. Pope Bonifacius called a crusade under the banner of one of the most influential monarchs of the time, Sigismund I, known as the founder of the famous and prestigious Order of the Dragon. One of its noteworthy knights was Vlad the Impaler, also known as Count Dracula. The heavily armored knights fought valiantly but were defeated. In 1443, a second crusade was called. Young and eager Polish King Vladislav III rushed straight into the Ottoman army. The Sultan's loyal janissaries killed him, beheaded him, and displayed his head on a pike. The Crusader morale crumbled, and their army was annihilated. The second courtyard in the Belogradchik fortress opens to a breathtaking vista towards the rock formations poetically named the Elephant, the Dog, and Adam and Eve's first kiss. If you look at the citadel wall, you can clearly see where one civilization ends and another begins. The oldest stonework is located in the uppermost terrace. The now barely distinguishable dry-stacked bottom section of the wall was built by the Thracians inhabiting these lands before Roman times. Above it, you can see the distinctive features of Roman engineering, such as the innovative use of mortar. The top and rightmost parts of the construction are recent repair work done by the Ottomans. Belogradchik was part of the Roman province of Thrace, an important borderland for the empire. Archaeologists have discovered various types of Roman coins here, bearing the faces of different emperors, the oldest dating from the time of Vespasian, late 1st century. He was famous for his large-scale construction projects, including the Colosseum, so he is believed to be responsible for this fortress as well. The Roman rule over Belogradchik spanned several centuries, but the migration period eventually put an end to it. Around the 2nd millennium BCE, Belogradchik was the home of the Thracians, one of Europe's oldest civilizations. The Thracians were master goldsmiths. Their craftsmanship and attention to detail are comparable even to modern time masterpieces. The most famous Thracian known to us comes from Roman records, the legendary Spartacus, who was enslaved by the Romans and made a gladiator. The Thracians who lived at the Belogradchik rocks were part of the Tribali, a loose alliance of several tribes. By all accounts, they were extremely militant and fierce. Both Alexander the Great and his father Philip before him tried to defeat them with minimal success. Following Alexander's death, the local Tribali encountered an invasion of Celtic tribes somewhere around the 3rd century BCE. The Celts attacked Thrace and nearby Greece, but they were repelled by the Tribali. This diverted their attention to the south, where they continued to raid and skirmish. They even founded a minor Celtic state near the Mediterranean coast. These events occurred long before the Celts encountered their nemesis in the face of Caesar, and they clearly saw the benefits of the Belogradchik region. Ascending the millennia-old steps cut in the stone takes us to the highest point in the Belogradchik fortress. The uppermost plateau has seen both natural and human influence. From this height, one gets a staggering view of the rock formations. The Belogradchik rock strip is around 30 kilometers long and approximately 3 kilometers wide, spanning a surface of over 12,000 acres. Some of the formations are as high as 200 meters. Human imagination saw shapes in the rocks and gave them names like the Horseman, the Madonna, the Lion, the Bear, and many others. These rocks started forming roughly 230 million years ago. At that time, this whole region was submerged underwater. As land emerged, dinosaurs made their first hesitant steps on dry land. Wind, water, heat, and cold stripped layers here and there. So in the beginning of time, the eagles ruled as kings of all animals from the Belogradchik rocks. They nested on the highest place of all, and nothing escaped their gaze. As humans started settling in the region, a Thracian tribe built a citadel among the rocks. They worshipped the eagles and always had their blessing. Eagle feathers adorned the hunter's arrows, which never missed. But the Thracians got greedy. Instead of humbly accepting the eagle's gift, they started hunting and killing them for their feathers. The tribe's shaman warned the hunters time and again that harming these holy creatures could bring misfortune, but no one listened. Then one of the hunters had a dream. A voice warned him not to kill the eagles, or disaster awaited him and the tribe. Brushing it off as just a dream, the young man left to hunt with his brother. He saw a pair of eagles perched on a rock and aimed his bow at them. But the moment he released the arrow, it magically turned back and pierced his chest. With his dying breath, the hunter confessed about the dream and implored his brother to protect the eagles. When he learned of this, the shaman appealed to the tribe once again. He urged them to pray to the eagles for mercy, lest all arrows turn against them. For 3 full days they prayed. At the dawn of the 4th day, an eagle flew down from the nest, placed a feather in the shaman's hand, and flew away. Rejoiced, the tribe saw this as a good sign. And indeed, no arrow ever turned against a hunter again. But the feather also meant farewell. The eagles left these lands. Since then, there are no eagles near Belogradchik. Only their old nesting place remains, still bearing the name Eagle's Rock, in memory of humanity's greed and betrayal. Rebel Velko is the only historical figure present in the Belogradchik rocks. He fought to liberate Bulgarian lands from the Ottomans, and his life has inspired many stories throughout the centuries. Originally, Velko was a shepherd who suffered under Ottoman oppression, along with his compatriots. Soon he'd had enough, so he left his home to join a band of rebels. Together, they raided multiple Ottoman convoys and garrisons. Velko's bravery did not go unnoticed, and his men gave him the title of war leader, or Voevoda. He was such a great fighter that people soon started telling stories of his skill, calling him immortal. The locals loved him and often helped him evade capture. Soon, the rebel army grew powerful enough to consider liberating the region. Veljko called to the Serbian kingdom for support, but was betrayed. Promised troops didn't arrive. When the battle came, the Voevoda didn't back down. Even though he was largely outnumbered, he stood his ground, refusing to yield the land of his ancestors. The Ottomans actually believed the stories about Veljko's immortality and didn't dare face him in combat. Instead, they fashioned a cannonball made of pure silver, thinking only that could kill him. On the third day of battle, the cannoneer finally managed to strike the Bulgarian rebel. The troops rushed in to retrieve his body so they could impale his head on a pike as an example. Veljko's comrades were faster. They took him away and buried him in a secret place. It is said the next day a new shape emerged on the Belogradchik rocks. The face of rebel Veljko was immortalized in the stone. His gaze struck great terror in the hearts of the Ottomans. He watches on to this very day, an immovable testament to those who never surrender when defending their country. Once upon a time, a beautiful girl named Valentina lived near the Belogradchik rocks. She was a nun from a nearby convent, but her beauty was legendary. Whoever laid eyes on her instantly fell in love. The Roman patrician Antonius learned of this, so he decided to pay the nunnery a visit. As he was passing by on his horse, he chanced upon Valentina picking flowers. As soon as their eyes met, they both knew it was love. Soon, the two started meeting. The nunnery's mother superior learned of this transgression and locked Valentina in her cell. Antonius kept trying to see her, but in vain. As days passed by, the young nun stopped talking and seemed to have fallen ill. The mother superior feared the worst, but then one day she heard the most unimaginable thing from Valentina's cell: a baby's cry. The old abbess was in shock. One of her nuns having the child of a Roman patrician? Shock turned to fury. Everyone gathered to banish Valentina along with her newborn. In a fit of anger, the Mother Superior raised a whip to strike her former sister as the others watched impassively. In that instant, storm clouds gathered in the sky. Thunder rolled on the hills, and savage winds howled. The Lord had seen a holy woman raising a hand to strike a mother and her infant, a nun breaking her vow of chastity, a Roman seducing a child of God. With a strike of lightning, he made his rage manifest. The motionless nuns turned into silent statues, as did Valentina and her babe, and the patrician who was riding to her. Since that day, the stone figures of the Madonna shielding her child, the monks, and the horsemen stand watch at Belogradchik, a symbol of God's indiscriminate wrath towards all sinners.